lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. The claws in my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Monday edition of the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm Brent Thomas, and I'm here to guide you on this magical journey through the dark recesses of the Paranormal Portal. Hope you guys had a good Monday. I think mine was okay. I had a lot of things I wanted to get done, some things I did, but that's kind of the way it rolls around here. You do what you can, and what you can't, you put off till tomorrow. But I hope you guys are ready, because it's time for bed. And it's Monday, February 11th, 2019. This show is live, unscripted, unrehearsed, just winging it. But I'm here with you, and thank you guys for being here with me. Lots of things going on in the Portal universe, but I don't know. It's just a lot of excitement and developments, but nothing I can talk about quite yet. But I can tell you, there are some. So anyway, I'll be excited to unveil a few of those as soon as I can. But again, Monday's behind you. It's over. I don't know where you live in the nation or the world, but oh my God, it's like the total northern hemisphere is just getting snowy and dumpy and cold and eesh. And you know the funny thing is I really feel the shift in the seasons. I really do. And it was a couple of weeks ago, and I felt maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a week ago. I don't remember when exactly, but I felt the shift to spring. And it's honest to God, what it is it's hard to explain, but it's almost on an intuitive, emotional, spiritual level, however you want to describe it. But you feel that shift in energy. And the winter for me is extraordinarily hard. I tend to be kind of a nature spirit. And during the winter, it's like the energy levels are so low, and it's really hard for me. And perhaps I should move somewhere where it's not so cold and desolate. But I have been working on that and have found not only the beauty in winter. I mean, I used to be an outdoors person a lot, downhill skied all the time, and in stupid cold weather when I was much younger, and able to do that. But as I get older, everything gets colder and hurts more. So I don't do that anymore. But it's just that the winter time for me is just such a absence of that ambient energy. But I found that after I searched for it a while, it was like I was able to find it, but it's just a more subdued and it's a different energy. Um, but it's hard for me to resonate with naturally. I really have to work on it. But honestly, I felt it shift. I felt like that spring shift happened around the same time as that warm up happened up here. A little bit before it, but I know, and I even told Don that. It's like, dude, I can intuitively feel like spring has started. Well, now I sound like an idiot because it's gotten like incredibly cold and snowing. But I'm telling you, the energy is different. It's kind of like when it turns into winter, but or late fall, but you still get that Indian summer. That's, well, and no disrespect to any First Nations people. I mean, it's just a figure of speech, but you know what I'm saying. It's like we get that hot streak even after fall has begun and it's begun to get cold. And I think that that's kind of what this is. It's like the the spring winter version of that. But I really think it's going to start warming up quickly. I think I really, it's hard to say this because if you're wrong, you end up looking stupid. But I really think it's going to be a pretty decent spring, and it's going to start pretty quickly as far as the temperature shifts. So anyway, I'm just putting it out there, and we'll find out if I'm at all right or if I'm absolutely delusional. But I just feel the energy is rising, and maybe it's just the transition that we're in. That now it's really kicking in after that super blood moon stuff. Maybe that was the transition. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know if any of you guys follow that or if all of you even understand what I'm saying. Maybe I sound like a babbling fool, but whatever the case is, I mean, that's probably no different than any other time. But I think there's something to this. I think there's an energy that accompanies the seasons more so than just temperature. It's like an energy. There's a vibrance and a life to each season. And some of them we naturally resonate to, and others are real, like counter to us. And I think it takes an adjustment. But like I said, I've started to find the energy of winter and appreciate it more. But I don't like being cold. There's just no getting around that. I like to be warm, and so maybe I'll have to find someplace warm to go. But anyway, this is the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond, and these are our short format stories, our short format show. And I'm going to get into some stories with you guys tonight. On Wednesday night, of course, Don will be here, and that's we got tomorrow yet for Bedtime Stories. And then Wednesday, he'll be here, and I think we're going to do a show on reality shifts and time slips and stuff. We've done a few of those before, but I really enjoy those shows because I think that this is a really profound phenomenon, and it may, in fact, go in hand with the Mandela effect as well. It's like hard to explain, but when reality just kind of shifts and things go sideways. Now, some people kind of equate a reality shift, and I called tonight when reality shifts, but I meant that in terms of ghosts. But after I created the board, I was like, I think we need to do a show on that. So I think that'll be Wednesday night. I've got a whole bunch of things pulled up for it already. Really excited to discuss it with you guys. But I think I honestly believe through the course of our lives, we are constantly shifting dimension. And we do that through our energy and through our choices and through our changes as we adapt and hopefully become a better person. But some people don't. They become worse or they become a shadow of the wonderful person they used to be. So it can go either direction or any direction in between. There's a lot of spectrum of possibilities there. But it's like when you make good decisions or when you make changes in your life and they're positive changes, for instance, and it's like the whole world has changed. But my point is what if it really has? If we are truly the creators of our experience, if we are creator beings, and I believe we are, that we generate the life that we know and understand and exist within. I mean, we do on a very, very fundamental level. That's not just symbolism and, fluffy thinking. It's fundamental. We create our experience from a very fundamental level. From everything from the sky just seems brighter to, people seem nicer and all of those things accompany that. Now, what if, as we make those changes, we are shifting our vibration and actually moving into a dimensional reality that reflects that change? And so when you notice things are weird or are not quite right or odd or you have a Mandela effect or something like that, is that perhaps a sign of that shift of moving through different dimensional realities as we change and evolve and grow, or as we change and devolve and wither, and so it goes either way. Like if it seems like everything's going to hell and nothing's good, then maybe, it all starts with you. You're the center of those vibrations. And so if you perceive the world as dark and ugly and hopeless and sad, then you have to become happy, hopeful, believe, and you have to counter those things energetically, and then the world changes. So I probably shouldn't get into so much of it tonight, but this is the kind of stuff I get really excited about talking about, because I think that even though it seems really fantastical and hard to believe, there's so many things that seem to indicate that changes are happening and have happened, and people have weird experiences that don't necessarily line up with just hauntings and things like that. That something has profoundly changed in their reality. So we'll get into that on Wednesday, but that's kind of a primer for it, just to let you know what's coming up. I think it's an exciting idea. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, Friday we're going to have Diane Swiger, who is D Swiger in our YouTube chat room. She's going to be on, and we're going to be talking about portals and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's just going to be a fun time. Now, Diane has been a contributor to the show for a long time and a wonderful person. She's given of herself to help people who've needed it, using her gifts and her abilities to reach out and help people. So she's going to be on the show on Friday. I'm really looking forward to that. And it probably took me way too long to get her on. She should have been on a long time ago, but I'm usually, honestly, on a personal level, just chasing my tail. So I'm not very organized as far as, directing the show like I should be. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Now, I think, and I gotta verify this with Deb, but I think Deb will be back on Saturday to do more readings, and so if you want to be a part of that, then that'll be Saturday. I think I'll verify. Please check our Facebook page, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, and I'll be posting these things as they're solidified. And I'm trying to. One of my New Year's resolutions is to post promos for shows before the day of the show. And sometimes I'm successful, and not usually, though. So I'm working on it. So, but check there, because you will know whatever's coming up on our show prior to the airing time. So, but anyway, let's see what kind of cool things we can get into tonight. Sounds cool. This sounds cool. And this sounds cool. Just pulling up a few from my catalog of pulled stories, because I got a whole huge list of them. And thank you to those of you who have emailed and reached out with your own accounts. I'm not sure if we'll get a chance this weekend to go over them, just so you know. But the next show that is a Friday or Saturday where we don't have a guest, I'm going to be reading those stories, and I'm really excited too. But thank you guys so much for submitting them. They don't have to be huge. They don't have to be extraordinary, huge, events. They can be just silly little things. I just think all of the paranormal is cool, Like, for instance, just the other day, and there's activity in this house, and I've really, it doesn't bother me. It's not really negative or weird, but I was sitting talking to my wife I was talking to a friend in the living room who had stopped over. And as I was talking, I was standing next to a mirror. Like, the mirror is on a wall right here, and I'm talking like at the corner to him. And the reflection, of course, is showing the bathroom in the hallway. And as I was talking to him, I could see a shadow go from down the hallway into the bathroom. And I turned and looked, and nobody was there. Not a sound, but I saw it. Now, that's not a huge paranormal event. That's not a huge thing at all. But those kind of things are all cool to talk about. They're all fun to explore and discuss. And, when you see things like that, it does kind of correlate to 100 other things that have happened that are, really bizarre. Not big things, often very, very tiny, very small. But when you start looking at the catalog of them, it kind of paints a picture. So share your stories, any of them. And I love hearing them. And it truly is the high point of doing the show for me. I'm not just saying that to try to coax you guys into doing it. I mean, honest to God, I love it when you guys do that. So if you have a story, please email it to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And I'd love to share your guys' story as well. Anybody else that hasn't done it, thinking about doing it, but haven't quite committed, please do it. I would be honored. And you don't need to be identified. If you're worried about your identity, don't worry. Just let me know in the email if you want to be named or not, or how you'd like to be referred. Just, you can say, oh, by the way, when you read this, refer to me as, this, but don't say this, or whatever. Let me know. I'm completely flexible. So the first story tonight is coming out of Texas, ladies and gentlemen. It says, when I was 15 years old, my parents and I moved in. Oh, I didn't turn on the moon, did I? Did somebody just think that? One of you guys? All right, I'm getting it. My remote control moon. There we go. I like the color changing one. I think it might help extend the batteries too, to be honest. Okay, so out of Texas. When I was 15, my parents and I moved into a house near my high school in an older neighborhood. A few months after moving in, my parents went out of town and left me at home with my friend Tori. Tori and I were watching television in the main living room, which is open to the kitchen, and suddenly we heard whap, 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 whap from the kitchen in all directions. We got up and peered through the large opening from the living room into the kitchen, and the first thing we noticed was that a bag of flour tortillas was lying on the ground. As we moved further in, we saw that the white bread and homemade biscuits were also on the ground, and on the other side of the kitchen island was a box of crackers. It was as if someone had thrown all of the flour products on the floor. It says on the flour. I think they meant on the floor. In rapid succession. Nothing else on the counters was disturbed or even out of place. Somebody's got some gluten issues. It's a gluten allergy. Sorry, I cracked myself up. Another incident in the same house was when my mom and I were alone one night, and I was in my room reading a book for school, and my mom was in the shower with the door locked, and suddenly I heard my mom fly out of the bathroom in a panic, yelling, "Rachel, what's wrong?" I looked up, and she's standing in my bedroom doorway with a really wild look in her eyes. She then told me that she was getting out of the shower when she heard a voice screaming, "Mom!" at the top of its lungs. She admits it didn't really sound like me, but that we were the only ones in the house, so she assumed that it was. About a month after that, I was walking by my dad's study when I saw a man in a white t-shirt, jeans, and work boots as clear as day out of the corner of my eye. However, I was in such a hurry by that time that I realized what I saw, and I stopped my stride, and I had already passed the doorway, and when I went back, there wasn't anyone there. This was no surprise because I was the only one home, or at least I thought I was. How is that not a surprise? That should be a big surprise. Who or what are these things and what can be done about them? Well, you can certainly cleanse. You can certainly tell them what your expectations are. You can communicate. Now, let me reiterate this, and this is a question I got from a listener, is that how do I talk to them? And it's honestly like this. Okay, I'm addressing a spirit. I've had weird things happen in my house, and it's like this. Look, I know you're here, but I need you to be respectful. You are only allowed to stay if you are of light and love and have good intentions for me and my home and my family. If you do not have these intentions, you must go. You are not welcome. Anything dark, negative, malevolent is banned from this house. You must leave these premises. And if you stay, here are my rules. Do not scare my wife. Do not scare my child. Do not do anything to harm or shock either one of them. And so on and so on. And that's how you do it. It's not a special ritual. It's not a special thing. They're just, if they are indeed a presence, if you do indeed have a presence in your house, they will. You have to understand one thing. Even if they're not standing right next to you, if they're in your home, see, I truly believe spirits don't need to be right next to you to hear you. When you direct your energy of intention to them, your thoughts carry to wherever they are. It's a telepathy, but it doesn't need to have a name associated with it. See, we're used to addressing things by a name. We're used to addressing them by an identity because we we communicate physically. But these beings don't have ears. They don't have ears to hear sounds, and they don't have mouths to make sounds. They work through energy. Now, there's a universal law that simply states energy follows intention. So direct your energy to this presence in your house and talk to it. If it is anywhere around, or if it's not completely dormant, once you start talking, it will be there right with you and listening. And you can ask for a sign that it understands and accepts. If you understand and accept this, you can ask for a knock. It may or may not happen. They may not have the energy to do it. You can ask for, that they just adhere to these rules. And if they do not, they must leave. You are banishing them. That is your intention. And project that intention. And 99% of the time, spirits will be respectful to that. They in most cases, were once people, and people just usually try to be decent people. Some don't, and that's okay. They can be dealt with differently if need be. But it's important to address this. For one, the acknowledgement is important for the being because I think it has to feel pretty isolating. If it's an earthbound spirit and they are not connected to the other side yet, they haven't transitioned, then they're in a state of confusion or flux or uncertainty, and just the fact that you're addressing them can be very healing, and it can cause good sentiments. Send out love with your message in your heart, because again, the energy follows the intention, and that's what will be received. But just be real firm with your expectations. It can't be like, well, I'd really kind of appreciate it if you wouldn't slam the door anymore, because that really freaks me out. You got to just say, hey, no more slamming the door. That's done, or whatever, just for example. Now, this is a technique that's been used for like ever in addressing spirits, to confront them if they're being negative and to address them, but mean it like you're talking to a child, essentially. And I don't mean that you condescend to them, but just be firm like a parent. So just my 2 cents, take it or leave it, but that's my understanding. That's what I do when I'm dealing with things that are, being disruptive. And, I can't think of any time that it didn't work. Well, no, I can, but that's another show. But at least then like if it doesn't work, then you have something that's really not respectful, doesn't respect you, doesn't care about you, and is going to do what it's going to do. And then you have to raise the bar. Then you've got to talk to people that can move it out, like Sean, like Deb, like Diane, or whomever, under saging, sprinkling salt around your house with affirmations, prayers with holy water, whatever, whatever your thing is. So just my 2 cents, but I think it's really powerful. And so just talk. That's how you address spirits. All right. So this was, okay. Yeah, I did this one. All right. I forgot what I read and what I didn't read. Okay. The next one is coming out of Florida. Florida. I think Florida is a nice place. It'd be warm there, wouldn't it? All right. In 2001, my little cousin Kayla was 3 years old, and she was not told, when our great grandmother, whom she had not seen since she was an infant, had passed away. Kayla was not informed about, nor was she present at the funeral, and she's always had something strange about her. I'm not sure how else to describe it, but she's always seemed very wise beyond her years. She remembers things that you wouldn't expect her to remember, and she seems to understand things very deeply that you wouldn't expect her to. After Kayla's mother had returned home from the funeral, she sat on the couch looking at a rose, and she had taken this rose from off the casket at the funeral as a way to remember her grandmother. Kayla walked into the room and asked her mother for the rose. "No," she answered. "This is Mommy's rose." And then she said, "But Granny said I could have it," Kayla argued. Kayla's mother and my own mother are sisters, and their mother, who we both address as Granny, is very close with us. She still babysits for Kayla almost every weekday after school, so of course my aunt made the assumption that Kayla was talking about her. When did you talk to Granny? Kayla very firmly corrected her mother. Not my granny, your granny. This pretty much freaked my aunt out. She was shaken enough to hand Kayla the rose. That's really cool. From the mouths of babes. From the mouths of babes. I've noticed that on many of the stories where this happens to people when they're usually very young, or they happen to the elderly when they are very close to death. Does a closeness to birth or death really allow a person a stronger ability to see into the other realm? Or are children just impressionable so they believe anything they think they see? I would imagine this is true in some cases, but at the same time, how would Kayla have known that the rose her mother had belonged to her great-grandmother? That's a really cool story, and that's a really interesting review of that whole phenomena. Closer to the other side, whether it's by birth, you came from the other side, or when you're going back to the other side, is that when your veil is at the absolute thinnest and you can see now with, that's an interesting point of view, and I had never considered that. I think it all kind of plays together, but I don't know. I'll have to think on that one. That's kind of profound. All right. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, is coming from Iowa. And Iowa's a lovely place if you like flat ground. No, Iowa's cool. Being from Minnesota, we always poke fun of our neighbor states. And, of course, Iowa was where you could see tomorrow's weather coming. All right. This story isn't about me. This happened to my sister and her husband. So my sister's name is Steph, and her husband is named Pat. And it's still going on. I'm terribly afraid for both of them. My brother-in-law has an ability to see and talk to those not with us anymore. Because of this, he gets a lot of unwanted visitors. The latest one is the strongest entity they have ever encountered. On the night of June 21st, 2007, Steph woke up from Pat hitting her. She looks over, and he's dead asleep. She hears a knocking on the front door as well as their dog, Shyla, and she was barking extremely loud, and not once did Pat wake up. After she got Shyla calmed down, she started to doze off, but felt a very strong presence and flung her eyes open. She got up and lit a candle, but this time it didn't work. Stephanie climbed over Pat, and it lit another candle, and it still didn't wake up, like he always does. She lay back down and heard a noise that sounded like someone stomped in the living room, and Shyla started to bark again, and Pat did not hear her, just dead asleep. She shook him to wake him up, and he noticed the distress in her voice as she told him that something was outside their bedroom. They opened the door and let Shyla out. And when they did, she had the biggest razorback and deepest growl they've ever seen. Shyla ran around the house searching everywhere because she knew something was there. They went back to the bedroom, and it felt extremely uncomfortable. Pat started to see two angels in front of him, guarding him from, he explains it as a dark red mist. They had 3 candles lit and started praying their hearts out. It went away, and they were finally able to fall asleep. These are the type of things that my brother Pat has to deal with on almost a daily basis. After this incident, when they go to see a psychic, they went to go see a psychic, and this wasn't the first time they've seen him, so he knows about Pat's abilities. He had told Pat that what he has is a poltergeist that has attached himself to his right arm. In most of Pat's past lives, he was born into evil. At one time, he was a samurai that was sent to look over a village, but something went bad, and he went on a killing rampage. This poltergeist is something from his past in which he had a contract with, and still thinks that they have that contract. They were told that during the day, it'll sit in the living room, and then come to their bedroom at night. The poltergeist told the psychic that The white candles only angered him, and now they burn black candles, burn white dried sage, and tell him the contract is over and that he needs to go away. They live in Kentucky because he's in the Army, and this last weekend he came up here to Iowa to visit while Steph stayed home, and she told us yesterday that the poltergeist stayed and bothered her all weekend, making noises all over the house, and she woke up Sunday morning with a scratch on her backside. They were told that once they get it off of Pat, that he needs to close this hole in his arm. And I'm worried that this poltergeist may end up hurting them more than what it already has. Does anyone have any advice that could help them get rid of it? And how to close this hole in his arm once it's gone? I don't know. That's a tough one. That's weird. I've not heard of a ghost being attached to one appendage and a contract going for, lifetimes. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know. I'll leave that to our experts. I don't know, Sean or Diane or Deb, if you know about that. I'm not even sure who's here, honestly. Let's take a look. I keep talking, but I didn't look. Okay, so in the chat room chatting is Annette, Danny, Deborah. Oh, Deb's here. Good. Okay. I mean, good you're all here. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean this. That sounded terrible, but I love you all, and I'm thrilled you all are here. But Lady Death, Lena, Lord Vader, MCAT, Sarah, and Ken. Well, thank you very much for being here, you guys. And thanks for chatting. And for all the rest of you that are just sitting back listening, thank you as well. Chatting is not a prerequisite to being in the portal, so you can sit back and enjoy the ride. That's fine, too. I nearly spit all over. Sorry. All right, so, but very interesting. I don't know. Did Deb say anything? I don't see. I don't know. Yeah, please hit the like. Thanks, Deb. Please hit the like. That helps to promote the videos as a suggested video on YouTube. So more people will find out about the portal, the more likes we get. Every time you hit the like, an angel gets its wings. Oh, I love that line. Okay, so cool story though, but yeah, I don't know. That's a different kind of phenomenon, and that's a story explanation that I've never heard before. That doesn't mean it's not valid. It just, that's a different thing altogether. Next one's coming out of New York, ladies and gentlemen. New York. Because the boss has something to say, huh? Quit busting my chops. This is a story about when I was about 8 and my cousin was about 9, and she lived in New York at this moment in a visible but low-key neighborhood. It all took place in a 2-story condo, and I was taken to her house one morning to spend the night. But our parents had to leave us soon after to do some errands for a while, and we were all alone in her apartment. I didn't think anything of it at this moment, but we then decided to go to her older brother's room to play with some video games until our parents returned. Then my cousin and I were automatically stopped by the sight of a mother holding the hand of a little girl, wearing all white, heading towards us with the simplest look on their faces. We weren't able to move. We were absolutely frozen where we stood. About 10 seconds later, we ran into her room and looked and locked the doors. We spoke and told each other that what we saw was real, that it was actually an older woman and a little girl that we say was her daughter, and I was so frightened. We couldn't believe that it happened, but we knew that was the only explanation we had. That was the day we never forgot about. Did it have a meaning? Was the little girl trying to say something? Was she sticking her hand out for a reason? That day was unforgettable, and we tried speaking to our parents, and as you would think, they didn't believe a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old. But was it just our minds playing tricks? I think not. It was a very real experience. Yeah, it's hard to know why would it just appear, and it could just be acknowledgement. Could be it could be a lot of things. That's the hard part about stories like this is you only get a snapshot. You don't get to see the whole video. You get one frame of it. And it's hard to put a narrative to that. I don't know. Next one is from California, the Sunshine State. And this is a long one. You guys are in for a treat. This one's a long one. All right. My life has really become very surreal, and I feel like I walk one half of my life in the paranormal and the other half in reality. What I'm going to tell you gave me chills up and down my spine, and I will say that I actually saw a ghost with my own naked eyes. But let's start at the beginning. This was a very unusual weekend, to say the least, and the date is Saturday, June 30th, 2007, and I was invited to Marysville by the soon-to-be paranormal investigator outfit called MPI, sorry. 3 women who were fascinated by the paranormal and are in the process of starting their own paranormal investigating team. The team is made up of No Name Number 1, No Name Number 2, and her daughter, No Name Number 1. What? Okay, I don't understand that. No Name Number 1 is an avid reader of my paranormal articles and contacted me and told me that she lives in an old Victorian home with No Name 3, and possibly this home is haunted. I was welcome to come and spend the night. The home was built in the 1930s. Before I left for Marysville, I was mowing my lawn with the help of my neighbor, Rukesh Kumar. When I finished mowing my lawn, I got packed up and headed out, only to return to my home 2 more times because I kept forgetting things that I might need for the stayover in Marysville. The 3rd time I returned, I was walking out of my house, and a car kept slowly driving past my home. The driver kept staring at me, and I looked at the driver and said, "Can I help you?" The driver says, "Are you, Paul?" With a quizzical look on my face, I said, "Yeah." Come to find out, this guy with 3 kids in his car had been reading my articles, and I don't know who this guy is, but okay, apparently he's pretty well known. Very cool. I said, reading my paranormal articles, and he was in my city visiting his family, and he's from Chico, and he wanted to show his kids where a real ghost hunter lives. And I thought to myself, oh, I better not publish my address in my articles. Now I'm becoming a tourist attraction. Yikes. After talking with the driver for a while, I finally got in my vehicle and headed off for the final time towards Marysville, and I kept thinking, I better not publish my address with my articles anymore. Before I know it, I will have some girl that I jilted back in my disco heyday stalking me. Funny. Thoughts of Play Misty for me and Basic Instinct came to mind. Yep, my life has become surreal. I arrive in Marysville, and the house is like a mansion. It's very impressive. I meet No Name 1, 2, and 3, and number 1 prepares dinner for everyone. Barbecue steak, tossed salad, baked potatoes, toasted French bread, watermelon, and we eat all on the balcony of this beautiful sunny day with the wind slightly blowing. Number 2, the manager of this home on in Marysville, tells me a story about the area that number 1 lives in this mansion, and at one time, a tenant of DH lived there. She was in her 40s and was taking a lot of prescription drugs for her diabetes. Mixing alcohol with prescription drugs led to her death. One day she collapsed and was found dead by her care provider, and according to number 2, she was a very sweet lady, and DH enjoyed taking lots of baths, and that is one of the ways she would pass the time in this sleepy little town. Before nightfall, number 1 had to make a stop at the Western Union for her daughter, and I drove her to the Western Union at a Kmart in Marysville. Kmart, huh? You don't hear about Kmarts much anymore. And when leaving Kmart, Marysville Finest pulled me over, and the officer looks at me and says, "Did you know you were doing 43 in a 25-mile-per-hour residential area?" I looked at the officer and told him, "Sir, I really didn't realize I was speeding and haven't been pulled over by the police since 1979. He checks me out and lets me go. That was a close one. All of Marysville is residential, and I'm not used to driving that slow, so I let number one drive my car, the Ghost Tracker. As number one was driving my car, I have a flashback to the day in 1979 when I was pulled over. Man, this guy can narrate. I just got dancing 8.5 days disco dancing with 5-minute break on every hour, and yes, I danced 205 hours and made it to Ripley's Believe It or Not, leaving the marathon, and I was fatigued. The officers thought I'd been drinking, and one of the officers said I looked familiar, and I told the officer, "Well, you've probably seen me on TV. I'm the Disco King of Sacramento." And I just got done dancing 205 hours. The officer said, "Do some dance moves." So here I am pulled over on a busy freeway, and I turn up the music in my car and give the officers a dance show. The officer who asked me to dance drops his flashlight, and with his jaws agape, he says, "You can go." Yes, I know. I've lived a strange life, and now back to my scouting mission in Marysville. Well, that was a paragraph we didn't really need. But it's all in the name of entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. I read it all. The sun finally sets and it's dark, and I bring out my digital camera and start snapping away. I take a lot of pictures, and there are no orbs, no mist or anything. And then I take a picture of number 3, and there's a clear orb over her head. And I snap another one, and the orb moves to another location, still close to number 3. More pictures, and in one photo on the left-hand side is a red orb approaching number 3 on the top of the steps. And I take the second picture, and this huge red orb is now engulfing number 3. I snap another picture, and the orb is gone. Taking pictures down the steps, there is a red orb moving up the steps. Now here's where things got weird. As number 1, 2, and 3 analyze my photographs with amazement, I'm looking up the stairs, and I actually see a human figure shadow with distinct head and torso moving from number 1's loft to number 3's loft. And there is no one in those lofts. And they are standing with me, and I ask number 1, 2, and 3 if they saw the shadow, and they didn't. That was so frustrating because I have no witnesses, and I saw this human shadow with my own eyes. The chills go up and down my spine, and I'm totally shocked. I'll place my hand on a stack of Bibles and swear to what I saw. I would swear that what I saw in a court of law. Just before I saw this human-shaped shadow move across the entryway between the 2 lofts, I was telling number 1, 2, and 3 that I've never witnessed anything with my own eyes or ears, and of course, that's the ghost detector. Damn, that's a creepy sound, isn't it? It's just high flux detected. So, oof, that one gave me chills. It's like, oh, I got it in stereo in my ears. No words, nothing on the radar, but high flux detected. So something must have come in. So keep watching the camera. I don't know. Let me know if someone's about to tap me or something. Sorry about that. So I saw it with my own eyes. The chills go up and down my spine, and I'm totally shocked. I will place my hand on a stack of Bibles to swear what I saw. Just before I saw this human-shaped shadow move across the entryway between the 2 lofts, I was telling number 1, 2, and 3 that I've never witnessed anything with my own eyes, and of course, there was Friday night where I thought I heard an old man's voice in the Folsom Cemetery, but I'm unsure of what I heard. I've only seen orbs, though, through photographs or video, never with my own eyes, and this is the first time I've seen with my own eyes a human shadow, and there was no human to make the shadow. I was absolutely astounded. Number 3 says she feels like she's being watched constantly, and she just has the feeling of being watched. While we were doing our investigation, we heard strange sounds coming out of the attic, and number 2 suggested bats, but I was unsure. And later on this evening, we all piled up in number 2's car, and she showed me the haunted historical Forbes house, and I snapped a few pictures through the window and didn't get anything. And while she drove us around, I checked out the photographs on my camera, and I had taken a lot of pictures of the big red orb, a medium-sized crystal orb, and a tiny orb, and I call the baby orb. In fact, one picture, the red orb engulfs the baby orb, and we stopped over at number two's home. Number two's home is quite old as well, and she had me snap some pictures and in her home, and I captured 3 orbs on her ceiling where the family sits and watches television. All the other rooms were orb-free, and Robin tells me that Marysville is an old town, and her former H Street house was very haunted, that the light in the closet would go on and off. The door of this home would swing back and forth. One time, number 2 was looking for something, and she said out loud, "Where is it?" And she heard a whisper that replied, "It wasn't me." Number 2 said that one day she saw what appeared to be a small-bodied person kneeling down in her home, and then it was gone. Number 2 also told me another ghost story that her mother's home in Live Oak was haunted. When all of her family were in bed, the TV came on, and the whole house lit up for a few minutes. The lights in this home would flicker off and on, and number 2 thinks to this day it was probably her deceased father. Number 2 said that the next time I come up, she will show me some of the old, very old, Marysville cemeteries that are reputed to be haunted. She feels Marysville is a paranormal hot zone, and Lindsay was so excited after this investigation, she's purchasing her own digital audio recorder, digital cameras, to get MPI started with her mother, number 1, and friend number 1. I see that he sometimes mentions names, but usually he's referring to them as 1, 2, 3, and I don't know if he just missed that or what, but I spent the night at this old home and nothing occurred, or I was so out of it I didn't realize anything occurred, and I left on Sunday and zipped over to Vacaville to meet another one of my readers, and her name is Ubicida J. Bell, a.k.a. Baby, or B-E-B-E, is that Beeb or BB? She sat and told me that when her husband passed away, that she saw his image zip past her, and one night she felt his presence on her bed, and he was touching and rubbing her leg. And after interviewing Ibisita, she didn't have anything that I could investigate in the present. She had a long story about the ghost of her deceased husband, but it was only a story and nothing I could hold onto or investigate. And I knew at this time it was time to go back home, and hopefully I won't have any more out-of-town visitors patrolling my neighborhood looking for a real ghost hunter to show their kids. There was one more thing, and I'd like to mention about this Maryville home investigation. Whenever the red orb was around, I had a hard time snapping the photo. My new batteries drained completely in the presence of the red orb, and I had to make a store run to get fresh batteries. So, very cool story. And the gentleman that wrote that was named Paul Dale Roberts. And that's really cool. And thank you, sir, for writing your story and letting us share it. That's really cool. He's a hell of a narrator, hell of a storyteller. But the disco part, I don't know if was necessary, but I guess if it's something he's proud of, I understand you want to talk about it. So, all right. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, is from Alaska. You know, Alaska is kind of cool. I have a feeling there's a lot of stuff going on in Alaska. There's just not a lot of people to talk about it or to see it going on. But I tell you what, I keep thinking of when Duke Sullivan was on the show, World Bigfoot Radio. Duke Sullivan was on just a couple Fridays ago, and he talked about a Sasquatch story of a young Squatch getting absolutely torn apart by a number 4 or whatever he called it. It was like God, no, I can't remember the name. Oh, wow! I just hate it when my mind goes blank. What the hell? Wendigo, that are referred to as a Wendigo. They're like a number 4 type that they're just huge and ferocious. But I just keep thinking about that over and over. It's like, oh my God. Ugh. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But if you haven't seen that episode, I would strongly suggest checking it out. It's in our archives here on YouTube, and it was a really good episode. And Duke and I have, becoming great friends. It's one of those guys that I know I could hang out with for years and always learn something new. He's just one of those people that is so learned and is so devoted to his craft that he'd be one of those people that you could totally apprentice under and probably never get near what he has. So anyway, this is another kind of long story, but it's the kind of love that I give you guys every day. Oh man, it's already been 50 minutes. All right, let me read through this and we'll call it a night. So I have to say that I'm officially freaked. The shadow people in my room are still there. Not only that, but they've started messing with me, and I mean really messing with me. Every time I go to walk out of my room, I feel someone pull my hair hard enough to yank my head back. And I hear distinct growlings. Jesus. I turn around and there's nothing there, and at night, whenever my light is on or off, the cat is with me or not, they appear. Of course, they only appear when there is a shadow, and where there's a shadow rather, and there is one corner of my room that is always in shadow. Light or no light, I can never really see back there. I put my TV there, so most of it is covered, but unfortunately that hasn't done me any good. I still hear what sounds like shuffling footsteps, harsh whispers, knocking on my window, and, okay, my mom says that this is just my imagination, but if you have a box TV, go up to it and smack the top or side of it, how can you imagine that sound? It wakes me up in the middle of the night and keeps me going. And it keeps going, rather, and going, tapping and knocking and rapping, and I'm going crazy. A few nights ago, I went to lay down in my room, and I was close to midnight, and I went to my room and shut the door and just fell onto the bed, and I laid there for a while, and then I felt something sharp, rake across the backs of my legs. Well, I screamed and bolted upright, and I looked around thinking that it could have been my cat, but he wasn't even in the room, and my door was shut tight still. I went to see where he was and found him sleeping in the living room, right where I had left him, and I checked the backs of my legs and found 3 distinct bleeding scratches that ran across both calves. Needless to say, I didn't go back into my room, and I slept out in the living room with my brother and his friends, who did hear me scream, by the way. And last night I sat up, and when all the noise started up again, and I stared right at the darkest corner of my room, and though I do not practice religion, I said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ, out loud, very clear, and very firmly. Instead of feeling better, the atmosphere in the room got real heavy, and I felt like bolting right out of there instantly. When the feeling didn't subside, I told whatever it was in my room to please leave me alone and to stop tormenting me. I heard what sounded like evil laughter, like someone was giggling at my discomfort in feeble attempt to make it leave. I've tried everything I can think of, and they keep coming back, and I tried time and time again to find out if anything strange had ever happened in the home before we moved there, but I couldn't find anything. There's nothing that could be causing this unless they're drawn to me. None of this happened until one of my friends dared me to enter our local cemetery alone. Oh. I told them to leave me alone about it, and they said, sure, fine, whatever. And when I turned away from them, they pushed me over the wall, and the next thing I knew, I was back on the outside of the gate, and my friends were freaking out. And I asked them what happened, and they told me that the instant I was over the wall, I started screaming bloody murder and then collapsed. I'm thinking that these shadow people have something to do with the incident, but I'm not sure. I'm scared and angry and wish that they would just go away. And I don't know what to do, and my mother won't believe anything I say, and I showed her the scratches, and she said it was the cat and refused to hear anything more. Any advice would be welcome. I was willing to share my time and my space with these entities, but now they've turned a bit violent, so I don't know, I just need help. And since this story is from 2007, I'm sure hoping you got that help, but Here's the thing. If you're not a religious person, if you're not a devoted religious person, a word is just a word. Uh, Invoking the name of Jesus Christ without the faith attached to it is not going to matter. It's just like saying Phil Hansen. You know, if you don't have that passion of that faith, the words are empty. Um, you have to have the devotion. It has to be something you really believe in and something that's really powerful to you. Because a word is just a sound vibration, but it becomes empowered by your faith, by your belief in that word, in whatever that is. And it doesn't matter whether it's Christian or whatever. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. And there might be many people that would argue the hell out of that, and I'm sorry if that's the case. But I think that all faith is born in the heart of the worshiper or the believer. And if you don't have that faith, if you don't have that passion, it's just empty words. It's like being an atheist but walking through trying to read a Bible to purge a spirit. It's not going to matter if it's not your faith. But you know, it's just my belief. So I'm not surprised that it didn't work. And of course, the entities, they aren't fooled by that because they can feel. They feel the energy. Again, they're not. You really can't lie to an entity because it can feel that energy. It's not hearing your words; it's hearing your energy. That's what it responds to. So if your words have no power in them, then they're just words. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this journey through the paranormal portal. A little quick journey tonight, but actually it was kind of a long journey, but it's almost an hour we've been doing this. And it seems honestly like 5 minutes. It's just flown by. So, but again, Friday night, Miss Dee Swiger is going to be joining me, Diane Swiger. So definitely tune into that. That's going to be a great discussion. She's got a ton of information about so many things. Very talented psychic as well. And so it'll be a lot of fun for you guys to tune in. But, oh man, thank you. Thank you, Haska. That's awesome. I really, really appreciate that. $3.33. Awesome. Triple threes. I love that. That's beautiful. I always love triple digits, and I think there's power in that. That there's they're good symbols. So thank you so much, man. That means the world. It really does. I appreciate that a bunch. All right, so I hope you guys are doing wonderful. I hope you enjoyed our journey tonight. I hope you have a wonderful day tomorrow. It's Tuesday. We're getting closer to hump day. And remember, on Wednesday, Don and I will be getting together for our 2-hour show right here on YouTube only. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Again, just to repeat, I've noticed a lot of our views, over 50% of our views are from unsubscribed listeners. And that's fine. I mean, if you don't like subscribing to everything you run across, that's cool. But if you love the paranormal and you like what we're doing, please subscribe. It sure helps. And as the numbers go up, so does the integrity of the show, in my opinion. But anyway, I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. And I'll be back tomorrow for another episode of the Bedtime Stories at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 7 days a week. There's a portal. There's a portal happening. So, yeah, Valentine's Day is coming up. I'm not sure about a Valentine's show, ladies and gentlemen. I may not be doing a show on Valentine's Day. You'll have to forgive me, but if I do one, I might be in the doghouse. So, all right. So I'll figure that out before then. But anyway, thank you guys. Have a great night and sweet dreams.